It's on.
No, just kidding. Welcome to Adrenal Night. Okay, we're going to talk about adrenal and thyroid. And this is something, if you go to every health food store around, how many people are going to talk, oh, low thyroid? I've got adrenal fatigue. Okay, you hear it all the time. Okay, so either people are being misdiagnosed with it or we have an incredibly stressed out society. So what we have to look at, and there was actually a brilliant chiropractor named Fred Barge, and what's neat about him, he would quote himself. And the guy, he had this deep theatrical voice. I mean, I loved him. He was one of my idols. So I'm going to quote myself. Health must be looked at as a systemic natural state, and it should be. Anybody that says that the thyroid's wrong or the liver's wrong or the pancreas is wrong, do you think pancreatic cancer is from the pancreas? Or from an entire system that's not functioning correctly? Yeah, of course. And so we have to change our view of this. Now, this is an actual patient, not her pictures, but an actual patient came to me when she was 55, breast cancer. Of course, she went the standard cut, burn, and poison route. So she had a mastectomy. They cut it off. The other breast was not infected, but they decided to cut that one off anyway. And so is this bad luck, bad genes, or has her body been giving her symptoms throughout her whole life? So I'm looking at her x-rays, and sure enough, I'm doing the history on it because she came to me for headaches, not to increase her immune system so she wouldn't get cancer. Okay, so obviously, the message isn't getting out there that the body is designed for health. So I start doing the history, and she was put on thyroid medications when she was, only 25? And I'm going, well, wait a second, nobody has a bad thyroid. Okay, and you're gonna know how upsetting this is. A 25-year-old kid diagnosed with a gland that's not functioning correctly. I'm going to show you right now that gland doesn't function in an isolated environment. And then you're going to find out that all of these conditions that she was diagnosed with as she goes over, gallbladder issues. Now, what does the thyroid have to do with the gallbladder? Well, if you know that the thyroid makes a bunch of hormones, the main ones are T3 and T4, and we're going to cover what they're made out of and what they are. But if the thyroid isn't working right, the adrenals kick in. And the adrenals use the raw material of cholesterol to make every glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, sex hormone. So when you look at this, the relationship to a thyroid that's not working, that means the adrenals are working harder and they need more cholesterol. The cholesterol is produced in the liver. So can you see the tie-in from the thyroid and the gallbladder? So the medical system, okay, that diagnoses a thyroid without looking into something further is killing this woman. 35, they rip out the gallbladder. So that means that she can't absorb fats correctly. And then you've got this liver that's constantly dripping bile into the intestinal tract, which is burning a hole in the duodenum, which is also irritating the pancreas. And then you come in fibroids and hysterectomy. Hysterectomy again, because she can't absorb the healthy fats, she can't produce the estrogens or progesterones. Fibroids, cysts, and tumors are a defect of the kidneys, the adrenals, and the pancreas. So you start looking at this, think, my gosh, her body was telling her when she was 25 that she had an issue with all of the systemic organs. And then to have cancer and everything, it's not bad luck or bad genes. It's like seeing somebody you love. I mean, I've had family members. Anybody in here ever have a family member that's a drug addict? Okay. So you love this person? Okay. You say, look, if you keep using, they're gonna what? They're gonna die? Okay, so you got a couple of choices. You can slow down, get help, stop. Okay. It's like they're driving a car full blast into a block wall. Stop, put on the brake, turn, slow down, go through a tunnel. And none of this stuff is like appreciated, that every organ system is connected. So now let's go over this, because every organ system is connected. If somebody said you have adrenal fatigue, you don't have adrenal fatigue. If somebody said you had a thyroid issue, you don't have a thyroid issue. It's connected. You got to connect it all. First, you've got a nervous system. The nervous system senses what everything is going on in the body. And you've got an organ called the hypothalamus, and this is sensors inside of that nervous system that's telling you what the state of the body is. Okay, and it can sense T4, but it also senses other things. So it produces thyroid-releasing hormone. And this sends a signal over to the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland, it used to be considered a master gland, and that's still what it's called. And that pituitary gland, once it gets the signal from the hypothalamus, it will send us a hormone down called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. And this causes the thyroid to start working. So it's the hypothalamus that is checking the levels of thyroid. It does a lot more than that, but just in this case, we're looking at that. Through the nervous system, telling the pituitary to produce this hormone. The pituitary sends down, and then the thyroid starts working. And now the thyroid starts producing the appropriate hormones, and in theory, once the hormone production of the thyroid gets up, the hypothalamus senses that, then tells the pituitary to stop the production of the TSH. So now this is pretty much what most blood tests are looking for. They're looking for T3 and T4, which is what the pituitary secretes, or the thyroid secretes, and they're looking for thyroid stimulating hormone, which is what the pituitary is. So now let's say the pituitary, which is inside of the brain, is screaming. It's producing a ton of TSH, and the T3 and T4 are low. What's that called? The brain's telling the thyroid to work. That's called a low-functioning thyroid, or hypothyroid. Let's say you have very little TSH and massive amounts of T3 and T4. That means the thyroid is producing more than the brain's telling it to, so then you have a hyperthyroid. So that's pretty much the only two things they're looking at. Now, when we look at this, we've got two things, and I'm going to cover this over and over and over again. So understand, I don't have Alzheimer's. Although I do like watching It's a Wonderful Life every year. You too? Okay, good. Yeah, good. So it's not real Alzheimer's. But I want you to go over it, because the more you go over it, the more you understand it. Okay, so remember, you got the hypothalamus telling the pituitary. Pituitary hands off to the thyroid. Thyroid produces T3 and T4. Now we have a second metabolic response in here, and this has to do with the adrenals. There's two things that regulate cell production. The thyroid is for healthy cell production. The adrenals are for stress cell production. So if you're under a stress state, like you're in the trench in World War I, or you're a salesperson, or you're a truck driver, okay, you need to still produce healthy cells. So then the thyroid is going to be suppressed, and the adrenals are going to start to kick up. So in this mechanism of the brain and the hypothalamus and the pituitary, we have another one. Under stress, we're looking at gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay, CRH, and this stimulates the pituitary, and that tells the adrenals to release cortisol. Now when cortisol comes up, and this is produced by the adrenals, that suppresses TSH. Now I want you to own this one, because cortisol is the greatest anti-inflammatory your body knows. So now if you have tissue damage, you just ran a marathon, do you have a lot of tissue damage in your body? Yes or yes? Yes. Okay, good. So what that's going to do, that's going to cause your body to release its best anti-inflammatory, and that's cortisol. That's produced by the adrenals. So what does cortisol production do to the thyroid? It decreases it. What about fast food? Systemic inflammatory response. What about toxic food? Systemic inflammatory response. So that's going to cause the cortisol levels to go up. What does that do to the thyroid? Decreases it. So when we go back, okay, when we go back to this scenario, did anyone ask this 25-year-old kid, why is your thyroid low? What's wrong? What's your lifestyle like? Do you have inflammation? Do you have excess stress? Did they ask that? Do they ever ask that? No, because there's not the respect of the body, and we got to change that. So when we look at this, and we're going to get into it deeper, so that's just like a rough overview. Thyroid produces a bunch of stuff. We're only going to look at T3 and T4 because that's pretty much the main areas that it works. Now iodine, T stands for thyroid, 3 stand for 3 molecules of iodine. T4, what do you think 4 molecules of? Iodine.
Aren't we smart?
You guys are so good. Okay, so iodine's really important to thyroid function. God, that's the end of that talk. Okay, now when we look at this, and we look at a ratio of T4 to T3, there's 20 times more T4 than T3. However, T3 is way more powerful. So T4 is more abundant, T3 is more powerful. And when you look at this, T4, which is very abundant, it's converted to the active form of T3 in the livers, intestine, kidneys, and lungs. So this means that the thyroid is producing T3 and T4. T3 is more active, T4 is more plentiful, but T4 is converted to the active form where? In the liver, intestines, kidneys, and lungs. Wait a second, that girl that we were talking about earlier, she had her gallbladder removed. So does that mean she might not have had a healthy liver or healthy bile production? Oh, wow. So then, if they'd diagnosed it correctly at 25 that she had a liver problem, do you think there was a conversion problem with the T4 to T3? I know, isn't this cool? I know, it's like little detective work because the body leaves clues. It doesn't do anything unintelligently. And then you look at this, dietary selenium is essential for T3 production. Well, that's true. So does that mean that all minerals are important? Yeah. Is this why a lot of people with a low functioning or adrenal fatigue crave salt, crave minerals? The plot thickens. Now the lab test, when they do a lab test, and this is frustrating because labs are completely inaccurate, and this is what guides just about 100% of the doctor's recommendations. Yeah. Okay, just about. Okay, because if it doesn't show up on the lab test, and even if it does anybody really want to talk to a patient? So, no, but that's the frustrating thing because you've got to really ask. What's your lifestyle like? What do you eat? What do you breathe? What's your history like? They don't do that. I mean, modern society, you got what, 3-4 minutes with a patient? Got your lab test here, sir. It shows you got a low functioning thyroid. Don't worry about it. Here's some Thyroid. You'll be just fine. Okay, we'll raise that and we'll change that blood test for you. Although I'm not asking him about his health. I'm not telling him or asking him what's wrong. I'm not looking for it. Okay, so when you look at this, the lab test for T4 or T3 uptake. Now, what's interesting with T3, estrogen binds to the binding protein or the binding globulin because T3 and T4, they're both bound to this thyroid binding globulin. And what's wild is that T3 and T4, and this is like a carrier protein, estrogen also binds to it. So does this mean that if somebody is high in estrogen, like let's say you're taking a blood test of a woman during her menstrual cycle or during menopause, or if that woman eats pesticide-laden foods, okay, which is high in estrogens as well, because most pesticides are estrogen-based. Does that mean that somebody eats high pesticide-laden or fast food that they're going to present with a low-functioning thyroid? Yeah, because the binding globulin isn't available to carry the thyroid around and it won't show up on the blood test. So then you start looking at this, say, wait a second. So does this mean that when they're looking at total 3T or T3, high blood pressure drugs, acute illness, steroids, all bind to that binding globulin. So that means that high blood pressure drugs are going to show up as a low T3 count or a low functioning thyroid. Does that mean that medications, illness, they're even calling it a low T3 syndrome. It's not a syndrome. Okay, you got to do a little bit more detective work. And so again, when we look at this, T3, how much is bound to that thyroid binding globulin? 99.9%. So that means anything that affects that carrier protein is going to affect the levels that we see of T3 and T4. 99.5% of T3 is bound to it. So does that mean that instead of looking at blood tests that diagnose a low functioning or a high functioning thyroid, that perhaps we should look to the dietary, nutrition, or stress factors that affect the 99.9% of the T3 and T4? Yes, I know. Is that done today? No. I know, and it seems pretty simple, but we should just look into it. Aspirin therapy contributes to hypothyroid. Estrogen binds to it. So again, what are some of the things that would bind to it? Let's look at polyunsaturated fats, and that's one of the things that I have on this chart here by Dr. Ray Peat. And he is probably the most brilliant guy when it comes to thyroid. RayPeat.com. He is a genius. There's an article on polyunsaturated fats negatively affecting the thyroid. So when we look at this, how many people out there are saying, well, I don't want cholesterol. I'm going to have this vegetable oil. It's clear and good for you. Okay. Yeah, it's genetically modified canola oil and soy oil. And this is even in some health food products. Okay, we're talking safflower, sunflower, walnut oil. All of those oils, they're polyunsaturated fats. They lower the thyroid function. They decrease it. I mean, and when you look at this, how many things bind to that estrogen? Oh! Wait, I'm sorry. I'm okay. It's just the wild animals scare me. Plus, do you like the new picture with blood on his face? Okay, just a little. Okay, so when we look at this, physical, chemical, and emotional stress. Remember, we've got those two balance things, okay? Under stress, thyroid's decreased, adrenals are up high. Now, has anyone ever hit their thumb with a hammer, or is it just me? Yeah? Okay. You know how it hurts really, really bad? Okay, and then the pain kind of goes away, and then, oh God, I'm noticing it again. It hurts really, really bad. That's because your body produces a pain reliever 40 times more powerful than heroin. So it has these organ systems that produce, endorphins and kephalins. I mean, we're talking a great, great pain reliever. Well, they can't produce it on a consistent level. So it has to build up the raw materials, then produces the protein. So you're going to notice pain waxes and wanes. Okay, and this is why, you notice pain and hurt goes in and down. Same thing with this. When we look at physical, chemical, and emotional stress, the body is going to raise the adrenals because that's your stress response, and it's going to lower the thyroid. Now, what's the normal stress response in under being chased by a tiger? Are you going to have a higher blood pressure? Yeah, is the liver going to break down more glycogen to glucose, so you have elevations in blood sugar? You don't want a lot of blood going to digestion, so that's going to be shut down. So then you start looking at this, say, wait a second, if blood to digestion is shut down, that means serotonin and the neurotransmitters. So that means chronic adrenal fatigue is going to lead to depression, anxiety, stress. Does that make sense? And you start looking at this and you go, well, wait a second. How many people are misdiagnosed with high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol? Wait a second. Now, cholesterol is the precursor to every hormone your adrenals make. Your adrenals are the pharmacy of the body. They make every glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, and sex hormone. They use cholesterol as the raw materials for it. And so when you're under stress, your body's producing that cortisol. What does the adrenals need to build cortisol? Cholesterol. So no wonder. That means the natural stress response under physical, chemical, and emotional stress, your body requires higher cholesterol. So how many people in our society today are diagnosed with high cholesterol? What's really going on with them is their adrenals are requiring it. It's working harder. It means they have a lower functioning thyroid state, and they're suffering some type of stress. Okay? Nobody should be taking a cholesterol drug. There's a number of books on it, the cholesterol myth, the statin nation. It's a completely foolish approach to health because it's the precursor to all stress hormones. Now, what things are suppressed when you're under that adrenal dominant state or the physical, chemical, or emotional stress? Blood supply to the gut, so that means lower serotonin, lowered immune system, low body regeneration. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is decreased. You're going to be misdiagnosed with a low functioning thyroid. Why? Because you don't want a normal metabolic response. You're in stress. Okay, does that make sense? So now we're talking physical stress. Does that mean somebody's sitting at a desk bent over like this? Okay, my Tuesday mornings, I'm not adjusting people. Okay, I get here about 5:30, 6 in the morning. I start late. Okay, and I'm back there. No, seriously, because like on the regular days, I'm here at 4:45, so that's like a normal day. So I sleep in, and I'm at that desk for about 5 hours, and it hurts. I mean, you got to stand up, you creak, it's miserable. Okay, now is that stress? Yeah, that's physical stress. How many people work at a desk, not like me, one day a week, but 8 hours, or drive? Or the chemical stress, okay, of eating fast food, or the emotional stress of, not having a healthy relationship. I mean, this is the same response. Okay, now this is huge. This is a mother and daughter, okay, and this right here is a low back with a normal bowel gas pattern. This right here, see all the black stuff and the twisted bent up spine? Abnormal one. Now, the girl on the left, which body's under more stress?
17-year-old.
Yeah, the kid. Okay. Now you can see that there's an abnormal gas pattern, so that means either the nerves are directly compromised or there's a toxic food. But what kind of inflammatory response is the person on the right experiencing? Huge. So are they going to have a healthy thyroid functioning or low functioning thyroid? Low. Are they going to be in adrenal fatigue?
Yes.
Yeah. So are they going to be able to pay attention in school? No. So we got an idea. Let's give them a class 2 narcotic. Ritalin, you know, just a helper in school.
Wow.
I know, that shouldn't even be an option. Okay, but what we can do, and it takes a little bit longer, get the pressure off the nervous system, get her gut healed. We could give her a mild stimulant like coffee or espresso with a little bit of sugar, which actually helps the thyroid function. So it's going to get her through this crisis here. But thank God she's got an intelligent mom. Her mom said, hey, look, there's something wrong. Now, would a gastroenterologist get this? No. Endocrinologist? No. Neurologist? No. Medical doctor? The standard general one? No. Nobody. Not in the medical system today. You know, because very, very few practitioners understand that the body gives symptoms for a reason. Okay, and then you could look at it. Did she have multiple courses of antibiotics? Did she have dental work? Did she have ear infections as a kid? And so then you start to connect the dots. But thank God her mom brought her in, because there are too many kids that are suffering with difficulty in school, and they're taking drugs that literally kill them. So I use the analogy that the thyroid is the canary in the cage, because it's really, really easy. Those miners, when that canary died, buddy, let's get the heck out of here. Okay, there's poisonous gas. So physical, chemical, emotional stress, what does that do? What does it first do to the thyroid? Lowers it, okay? So that means that any type of altered thyroid function, it's got to be from some kind of stress. And then you look at it, TSH is decreased. So it's not, if the TSH is decreased, that means the brain is under stress. The brain is recognizing that there's going to be some type of adrenal state. It's not hyperthyroid, it's stress. And then you start looking at this. Thyroid's decreased, digestion's decreased, serotonin's decreased. This is an intelligent response to the body. A low-functioning thyroid is an intelligent response. Adrenal fatigue is an intelligent response, given the environmental stimulus. Okay, if you have chronic inflammation, if you have chronic stress, it's supposed to work that way. Okay, it's a fool's errand to try and second guess the body. It just doesn't make sense. So when we look at the adrenals are the pharmacy of the body. They produce every glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, and sex hormone. Vital. Progesterone protects you from cancer. Okay, this is, you can't get any more important. Estrogen, progesterones, produces interferon. $40,000 worth of interferons produced there. That's the most powerful anti-cancer drug known. So does that mean everybody with breast cancer or pancreatic cancer or brain cancer or melanoma more than likely have an adrenal fatigue state, or that it's been a systemic response to the body over chronic physical, chemical, and emotional stress? Yes. Yes, so this is everything. This is the key to disease and health. So when we look at this, what's the test for thyroid? Remember that it has like 2-3 minutes? Looks at the blood test? Nope, your adrenals are fine, sir. 90% of it's got to be destroyed before it shows up on a blood test. So they're not going to know. So when you look at this, alcohol, drugs, food, environment, stress, I mean, it's crazy that instead of looking at the patient and doing a thorough history and respecting the body's responses, that it all comes down to a blood test that's ineffectual. Okay, so when we look at this, and this is again, cortisol is the greatest anti-inflammatory known, but it's to keep you alive short term. If it's long term there, it kills you. So short term cortisol regulates fat, protein, carbohydrate metabolism, immune system response, anti-inflammatories, helps with blood pressure, everything. Long term, slows down the thyroid, blood sugar imbalances, so that means diabetes. Does that mean type 2 diabetes has a thyroid adrenal imbalance? Yes or yes? So does that mean that type 2 diabetes is from chronic physical, chemical, or emotional stress, and you deal with the stressors, you eliminate diabetes?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you saw last week's on the diabetes. Sleep disturbances, okay? So does that mean that the person's in a chronic stress state? If they can't sleep, what happens? They can't repair their tissue. If they can't repair their tissue, they get in an adrenal dominant state. And all of these things, they're all clues. Depression, lupus, they're clues that the body's in an altered metabolic state. I mean, it's so easy. Now, you've got this balance. This is going to seem insanely simple. What causes the thyroid to go down? The adrenals are up. You want a healthy functioning thyroid? We calm the adrenals down and get the thyroid working correctly. Okay, so now, what lowers thyroid function? Estrogens. So that means pesticide-laden foods, commercially produced animals. Okay. High cortisol. So that means a chronic inflammatory state. So this means people that are causing systemic inflammation. So when we look at it, liver toxicity, fluoride. Ooh, fluoride. That's bad. Can you imagine a society mass medicating the population without control of the dosage of a toxic substance that will destroy the thyroid? Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to California. Okay, so don't worry. We have a filter that filters out the fluoride. Okay, you know, I mean, this is just insanity. Okay, stress, toxic food, medications, vaccinations. Oh yeah, that's a winner. Okay, foreign animal and viral proteins with aluminum and formaldehyde and everything injected into your bloodstream. Yep. Okay, what helps the thyroid? A healthy gut. Takes about 30 to 45 days to heal the gut. Okay, so what does healthy gut function mean? Healthy nerve supply, healthy food. And then what helps the thyroid? Low cortisol, so less inflammatory foods in the body. We're talking healthy food, healthy water, and low stress. There's got to be something more. Human beings can't be that simple. We're talking healthy food, healthy water, and healthy stress? Oh. Yeah, healthy stress. Right now, if we all went up into the atmosphere and were free of gravity, what would happen to our bones? They disintegrate. Yeah, we'd be squid. No, I need this. I need the healthy stress from gravity. Na-na. Okay, now, since cortisol causes a decreased inflammatory response, what lowers cortisol? A healthy thyroid function, I'll go with that. Vegetables and water. So how can it be that simple? Okay, because remember, anytime one's up, the other's down. Now let's look at the other thing. Have you ever heard of bromine? Bromine. Years ago, they used to use it as a yeast agent where they would use iodine. And then there's iodine phobia, where everybody's afraid of iodine. Okay, so they use bromine, which is a toxic poisonous product, in bread. And it's kind of neat. When you go to Whole Foods, they say non-brominated flour. Okay, which is kind of nice. At least they're starting to get the big picture. But bromine, chlorine, fluorine, or fluoride, they all are halides. So they're really similar to iodine. So remember the T3 and T4? T3 is what? 3 molecules of what? Iodine. Okay, and T4 is 4 molecules of what? Iodine. Oh, okay, cool. So now, since we got basic chemistry down, if you get a body that's inundated, okay, with chloride, you know, from the water, with fluoride from the water, and with brominated bread, and very little iodine, like iodine deficient, like you don't eat a lot of sea vegetables, the thyroid's going to look around and try and use the fluoride, try and use the chlorine, try and use the bromine, but it can't make it. So what's going to happen if somebody has those exposures? Are they going to have a healthy functioning thyroid or low functioning thyroid? Low functioning thyroid, only because of the excess exposure to toxic components that the thyroid can't utilize. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if somebody says you have a low functioning thyroid, say no, I live in Burbank. We drink fluoridated water and there's chlorine in there and it's just toxic. Okay, so I mean, of course, the toxic stuff has been banned in the United Kingdom and banned in Canada. Okay, I don't know how it is in Australia, but it's probably banned down there too. They're smarter than us. Okay, fluoride. Now fluoride, because remember, they used to have functioning hyperthyroid, and why? Because the adrenal dominant state back in the 1800s, they found out that if you gave someone fluoride, it would slow their thyroid down. Why? Because it mimics, it's a halide, and it mimics iodine, and it slows down the thyroid. They would prescribe fluoride to slow down the thyroid. So when the guy is looking, wow, you have a high TSH and a low T3 and T4. So what is that? The brain's telling the thyroid to produce stuff. The thyroid's trying the best he can, but he's so iodine deficient, he's trying to make thyroid hormone out of chlorine and fluoride. You're doing the best you can, sir, but you're just not having the building materials. But I don't want to talk to you. I'm just going to look at the blood test here. And the blood test here says you got a low-functioning thyroid and a high-functioning pituitary, so you need this Synthroid. I'm not going to do any more diagnostics on you because I'm just following the procedure. Okay, can you see this? We're not going to do silly stuff like that anymore. This was used to lower the thyroid. So if you have a fluoridated system, it's lowering thyroid function. If you're not, and well, what's worse, soda. When you look at the different levels of how Sunny Delight, okay, is made with fluoridated water. You look at most of the bottled water, most of that's fluoridated. When we look at this, gluten, histamines, thyroiditis, if you've had vaccinations, if you've had antibiotics, what happens is your gut starts to leak. You get these undigested proteins into the bloodstream. Now, undigested proteins in the bloodstream, the body recognizes those as pathogens. So it's going to build antibodies to attack those pathogens. This is the theory behind injecting you with monkey tissue, dog kidney tissue, aborted human fetal cells, otherwise known as flu shot. Okay, yes, it's flu stupid shot season. Okay, so when you get those foreign proteins in your bloodstream, your body builds antibodies towards those foreign proteins. Well, if you've had antibiotics, leaky gut, MSG, all of those things will cause those foreign proteins to get into the bloodstream. The body recognizes that, builds antibodies, and it attacks the gluten and the caseins. However, those gluten and casein proteins look really similar to what the thyroid produces. So those antibodies can attack the thyroid, leading to Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Now, is Hashimoto's a hyper or hypothyroid? Say both. Both? You're so right! Oh my gosh, this is the most educated group. Okay, that's true because we don't know. I mean, if the antibodies are active, it's going to be low. If the antibodies are slow, it's going to be high. Okay, because the body's trying to compensate. This is why it gets crazy. So when you look at it, what can heal the gut? Well, what was that slide I just had that helps the thyroid? Healthy water, healthy food, vegetables, plant, the iodine would be good. Eliminating toxins would be good. Oh my gosh. So does that mean Hashimoto's thyroiditis can be healed? Yeah, pretty quickly. Okay, really quickly, in fact. Okay, so here, let's go on. Okay, when we look at this, this is the EPA's, I love this, National Research Council, the NRC, and they found out, and this is just a nice little study in 2006 on fluoride in a scientific review of fluoride in the water. Now this is, I think it's almost, there's a few communities that are holdouts in America that say, no, don't poison our water supply. But the EPA says fluoride exposure in humans is associated with elevated TSH. Why? Because fluoride mimics iodine. The thyroid can't make the T3 and T4. So the brain recognizes that there's a low T3 and T4 production. So it tells the pituitary, okay, to increase TSH to get that gosh darn thyroid working better. Okay? So this is an intelligent response to a toxic environmental stimulus. Now this says it's going to lower T3 and T4. And it has similar experiments in animals. So that means humans and animals are both going to negatively respond to fluoride. So when you look at this, okay, what is anyone drinking fluoridated water or the things that are made with fluoridated water, what's their adrenals going to be like? Strained? Overactive? So they're going to be in a systemic, since the adrenals are active, what's their gut function going to be like? Healthy or poor? Poor. So a community that would do this, they would have gut issues, serotonin production, depression, anxiety, cancer? Wow. I know. So when we look at this, symptoms of a low functioning thyroid, and you could say, or an excessive functioning adrenals, or response to a toxic deficient environment, or response to excess physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Okay? So it's not hypothyroid. That's foolishness. When we start looking at it, okay, we got muscle, joint pain, depression, weight gain, hair loss, carpal tunnel syndrome, weakness in the extremities, mental disturbances, impaired fertility. I mean, you look at all of this stuff, it's like, my goodness gracious, this is our community. Okay, it's just, it's an intelligent response to stress, physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Okay, hyperthyroid. Okay, hot all the time, unexplained changes in weight, depression or anxious. So when you look at this, the thyroid's working too much. So that means that there's some kind of problem. They used to call around the Great Lakes the goiter belt because they didn't have enough iodine. Okay, so the thyroid's working as much as it can, but it doesn't have a healthy building materials. So the thyroid and the goiter start to form. Cholesterol, the most important building material you have. Cholesterol does not clog arteries. Cholesterol does not clog arteries. Cholesterol does not clog arteries. Cholesterol does not cause increase in strokes. Cholesterol doesn't clog brains, okay? Cholesterol is the vital material that you make every hormone, glucocorticosteroid, mineralocorticosteroid, and sex hormone out of. Okay, do you know how many people are going to come up to me after this and say, well, doesn't high cholesterol clog arteries? No. Okay, so when you look at this, cholesterol turns into cortisol. Cholesterol turns into testosterone. We'd have the same thing. Cholesterol turns into estrogen. Cholesterol turns into progesterone. I mean, it's everything. It's the building materials. Problems with low cholesterol. Yes, pigs fly. Okay, asthma, reduced libido, infertility, allergies, chronic inflammation, mineral deficiencies, swelling, blood sugar problems. So does this mean that cholesterol medications can lead to type 2 diabetes? Yeah, it says it on the package. Okay, so you can't drug someone to health. This little kid, darling little 13-year-old kid. I mean, just cute as a bug. But when you look at this, that is a person under stress, yes? Yes. Okay, crazy world, 2014, America. How many vaccines do you think she's had by now?
30.
No, you're going to have 36 by 18 months. Okay. No, this is crazy world. Okay, this is crazy world. This is now. So you had about 4. Okay. An 18-year-old kid is going to have, about 40. So she's probably tipped the scales about 48, 50 vaccines. Okay. Now, knowing that this spine is under trauma, do you think she had any ear infections or asthma or breathing problems?
Yes.
If she did, what were those treated with? Antibiotics, poisonous mold. So she's had multiple neurotoxins. Now she's living in America. Does she drink fluoridated water or soda made with fluoride?
Yes.
Okay, so her thyroid's going to be off. Now, what we can look at, this clear glass-like looking thing, that's called a Magenblase. That's the top of the stomach. It should be about a quarter that big. So what would cause the stomach to expand up like that to be sick? Okay, we're talking something, some kind of decreased nerve supply. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, there's the toxins. We know that for sure. We can see nerve pressure. We know she's in a sympathetic dominant state or adrenal fatigue state. We know that the nerve supply to her gut's shut down. So could she have behavior problems in school? Could she have, well, I mean, this is what she came in with: low back pain, sleep problems, and headache. Sleep problems, is that somebody in an adrenal dominant state or thyroid dominant state? Adrenal dominant. So she's having sleep problems. So should we give her a drug to get her to knock out? No, you start, the more doctors and physicians look at a kid with respect or look at an adult with respect, if they don't, this kid's going to die. She's going to be a statistic. She's going to be put on drugs to make her study better. And then she's going to be put on antidepressants. Then she's going to be put on sleep medications. She'll live, okay? But by 28, 30, she's going to be infertile. Then she's going to go to the fertility clinic. Then she's going to get gallbladder issues. By the time she's 35, by the time she's 50, she's going to have a mastectomy. Okay, thank God her parents brought her in here. Thank God. Because what doctor is going to recognize that nervous system pressure? Okay? I mean, it's just like, we got to get the message out to respect the body. And this is to every doctor, every nurse, every person. If your body is giving you symptoms, by God, respect it. It's so important. This is the solution. And it seems too simple because the body is simple. Drink more water. Wait, fluoridated water? Chlorinated water? Okay, you're right. It's my fault. I should have put healthy, normal water. Oh, I did put healthy water. Okay, eat more veggies, reduce medications. Well, you know what I say? Okay, and this is what I'll tell my patients. And I say it with this type of emphasis. Sick people need drugs. As your body gets healthy, what would happen if a healthy person took those drugs? You know what they would get sick. I know. So I'm just telling people what they already know, okay? So this way, instead of the victim mentality where you're taking the pills, okay, you start saying, well, you're right. When I get healthy, I won't need this crap. Okay, so eliminate refined foods, eliminate enriched foods, eliminate toxins, deal with stress occasionally. That does not mean hire Italians, okay? It means walk, it means exercise, it means walk in the sun, swim, bike ride, do something. And eliminate the American lifestyle. Okay, you know, the toxic stress, the medications, and everything else. There's some vitamins you can take, B3, vitamin C, vitamin E, beta carotene. It's pretty much just normal food. I mean, you can get everything just about from plants. Since we are toxic, chlorella and spirulina, great supplements. I recommend them because we're a toxic culture so far. Juicing and blending, absolutely vital because you get more nutrients from the juice. So if you've been, what do you think I'm going to recommend to that little 13-year-old kid? Juicing and blending. Okay. And not Sunny Delight. Okay, I'm talking plants go in a machine, it grinds them up, you get something that you can drink and you drink it. You know, she's going to get better. Enzymes. This is vitally important for anyone whose heart is still beating. Okay. Enzymes are naturally in foods. Okay. And raw enzymes are the best, and you only need them to help break down the nutrients. And if you're over 40, you just got to get them. Enzymes are vital. And this is it. That's the solution to thyroid and adrenals. I know, it's like, cool, this is easy. Now, all of this is going to be available on the owner's guide. Everybody on YouTube in the world, they get it for free for 7 days. Every one of our patients get it for free as long as you're my patient. Whatever country you're from. Okay, and go to our YouTube channel. We do have a cruise coming up in February. I think there's only 75 spots left out of 200. And I know February seems like it's far, but we're going to have the next health talk here at this location. We're going to do a little quick version of the 3.5 days that we're going to be teaching on there. It's only going to be about 2 or 3 hour classes, but we're going to talk about how the body works. We're going to talk about the source of diseases, how to strengthen your body, and we're talking about meditation, lifestyle, exercise, nutrients, everything. And then we're going to explore San Juan, Puerto Rico. Okay, so I'm thinking like the cannons and the forts. Okay, I think that's going to be cool. Then we're going to go to St. Martin and St. Thomas, so that's going to be good scuba diving and sailing. So, and it's my first time on a big boat. Well, I mean, really big boat. I've sailed like 50-foot boats, but this one's going to be fun. So, and that's going to be next. And then Lori's got coupons to get checked. Okay, now, any questions? Oh, wait. I can't do the questions on this because I don't have a portable mic. So thank you very much.